Let's take a look at recruitment. Recruitment means making contact with the family or youth and obtaining the necessary information to document the child's eligibility and enroll the child in the migrant education program. Federal law requires that the state identify and recruit every eligible migrant student residing in Texas. Recruitment also includes informing and describing the benefits of the migrant education program to the families when enrolling the child in the migrant program. For recruitment to be effective, it must be ongoing throughout the entire year, not just the school year, and must include balanced efforts to identify and recruit eligible children and their families. Once the student has been recruited, the COE is used to document the student's eligibility into the migrant education program, and then the information is inputted into the Texas NGS system. Let's look at contact. More than likely, you've probably made contact with existing families to see if they have made any new qualifying moves. You may have already completed copies of new COEs as needed and may have shared copies of the COEs with appropriate entities. For new families who may potentially be eligible for the program, we recommend that you use a screening tool to help to determine if qualifying move has occurred. The screening tool is linked in this presentation. This screening tool may be used to screen for potential eligibility for the migrant program prior to filling out the COE. Depending on the interviewee's responses to the questions, the recruiter will know whether he or she should proceed with completing the COE. The screening tool begins with the age of the child. The child has to be younger than 22 and must be lacking a high school diploma or certificate of high school equivalency. You can see in parentheses that both boxes must be checked. Moving on to the qualifying move, all the boxes must be checked. The worker made a qualifying move from one school district to another, and the move was a change from one residence to another, and the move was due to economic necessity. The screening tool requires information about the worker, and one of the boxes must be checked. The worker engaged in qualifying work, or the worker did not engage in the qualifying work. The screening tool continues with the qualifying work and requires both boxes to be checked. When looking at the qualifying move for the child or children, all boxes must be checked. The child or children must have made a qualifying move from one school district to another, and the move was a change from one residence to another, and the move was due to economic necessity. The qualifying arrival date, the QAD, is determined in the last section of the screening tool. Let's look at sample contact methods. For existing children, recruiters may utilize reports from NGS, like the COE family report or the end of eligibility report, to get contact information. You can also use your district students information system, such as Skyward or eSchool Plus, to get contact information as well. To make contact with potential new families, recruiters will need to circle back to the identification strategies in place at the district. You may ask for your district's pre-registration report. You can also ask for the late enrollment early withdrawal report. The late enrollment is important because many of our migrant students arrive after school has begun and enroll late. The late enrollment report will allow you to make contact with families and determine if their students qualify for the migrant program. Many districts have opted to have electronic family surveys as part of the district registration process. The survey results will allow you to follow up with families and see if there are families that have made a migratory move or work in the agricultural or fishery industry. You can follow up with phone calls and emails. Depending on your district, you can also do some door-to-door canvassing and follow up with their referrals. In a previous presentation, districts were able to share what they do to contact families. If you click on the link, you will be taken to the results of this activity. Districts were able to share what they do to contact families. Once the screening questions have been completed and the family has been determined as eligible for the migrant education program, the recruiter must complete a certificate of eligibility along with accompanying forms such as the certificate of eligibility supplemental documentation form and continuation of supplemental documentation form to record the child's participation in the program. Only one certificate of eligibility and one supplemental documentation form must be used. However, a recruiter may use multiple continuation of supplemental documentation forms to document further eligibility information. The certificate of eligibility is an official legal document that should contain all of the information that the school district will need in order to determine eligibility. Also, this document must be kept on file for future reference and auditing purposes. The COE can be completed through a face-to-face interview at home, at the migrant education office, anywhere on campus, or at the interviewee's work. At this time, due to COVID-19, phone or video conferences are being allowed for interviewing for filling out the COEs. At the bottom of the screen, you will see the link to the Texas Migrant Education Program guidance in reference to COVID-19. Please review the Texas Migrant Education Program guidance. Depending on your district, if you are still doing phone interviews, on the interviewee's signature line, you will write COVID-19 interview, followed by a statement on the comments section stating that on this particular date, the information was verified by the person you interviewed. You also have the paper link certificate of eligibility, supplemental documentation form, and continuation of supplemental documentation forms link available. The electronic COE feature is temporarily unavailable on Texas NGS. Catapult is working on resolving some technical issues with that feature. TEA is asking recruiters to use the paper COE until further notice. You will be notified once electronic COEs are accepted. As you know, the Texas NGS system is up and running. Catapult is in the process of fixing the hiccups and appreciate your patience in this matter. The final step in recording a child's participation in the migrant education program is encoding the eligibility information on the state's web-based application, Texas NGS. This is how the state runs their reports to know how many migrant students are across the state of Texas. In addition to submitting the information on the Texas NGS, you must maintain a hard copy or a digital copy of the COE on file. Even when completing an electronic COE, you should make a hard copy or a digital copy to keep on file. Let's look at the recruitment question. Which of the following is not a recruitment strategy? 1, calling the family to determine if they made a new qualifying move. 2, completing a COE and accompanying forms. 3, since the family has existing eligibility, it is not necessary to contact the family. Or 4, encoding COE on Texas NGS. If you chose question 3, you are correct. Since the family has existing eligibility, it is not necessary to contact the family. Is not a recruitment strategy because we must contact every family to determine if a new move has been made and complete a new COE. This concludes the section on recruitment. We will now go back to the main menu.